of Minnesota Board of Regents. Thank you to everyone joining us today in the boardroom and via live stream today. I note at this time that Regent Gully is appearing via Zoom, and at this point, we will turn to our business. The annual meeting has 3 items of business. The first is that we will address is the establishment of meeting dates for the 2025-2026 year. Before us for review and action is that schedule, and I will note that it has been restructured. The proposed structure has been restructured in response to Regent feedback and to support effective governance. The proposed schedule balances the board's need to conduct regular business meetings with the need to convene more frequently to nimbly address emerging issues. Before I open it for a motion, I'd like to highlight the key components of the proposed calendar. First, there will be 6 regular meetings evenly spaced across the academic year that avoid known conflicts. Committees will convene at 5 of these 6 meetings. Second, 2 additional items, specific meetings are scheduled to act on tenure and promotion approvals, hold the board's annual recognitions, and act on the annual operating and capital budgets. I'll note that additional agenda items could also be added to either meeting as needed. Third, we are also holding 3 dates for special meetings to address emerging issues if needed. And finally, the proposed schedule establishes predictable dates for active learning and listening opportunities for the board to see and hear directly from faculty, staff, and students across the system. These active learning sessions will take important educational topics that would typically be heard in a passive way via PowerPoint presentation in the boardroom to the places and spaces and those doing the work. Our hope is that this will provide a more meaningful way for regents to engage with this information and to support strategic conversations in the boardroom. Several regents participated in the pilot sessions we held this past year, and they were tremendously valuable to us and to those we met across the system. With these 4 sets of dates included as part of our regular calendar, we anticipate more regents will be able to participate. I'll also note that the activities for these will be planned in alignment with board priorities and, once adopted by the board, the new system-wide strategic plan. With that, is there a motion to approve the dates as outlined in the docket?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing, seeing none, then all those in favor of the motion approving the dates as outlined in the docket, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. The second agenda item for the annual meeting is the report of the nominating committee. We will now hear from the nominating committee, which is made up of Regents Verhalen, Tad Johnson, and Regent Turner, and I want to thank them all for their work on this committee. Regent Verhalen, as chair of the committee, would you please deliver your report and the committee's nominations for board officers?
Thank you, Chair Mayron. After interviewing potential officers on May 28th, 2025, the nominating committee voted unanimously on June 1st, 2025 to recommend the following individuals to serve as board officers for the 2025-27 term. Douglas A. Hipsch to serve as chair. The nominating committee also voted unanimously to recommend 2 vice chairs. Ruth E. Johnson to serve as vice chair and Penny A. Wheeler to serve as vice chair. Thank you, Chair Mayron. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Regent Verhalen. The report of the nominating committee places these individuals into nomination for board officer positions. Other officers include President Rebecca Cunningham, Corporate Secretary Brian Steeves, and Treasurer Greg Goldman. Following the recent amendments to the bylaws of the Board of Regents, those individuals remain as officers as long as they hold their university positions. Before we act on the nominating committee's report, I wanted to indicate that at the meeting in May of 2025, our last meeting, I shared with all of you at that time my intent to move to suspend the bylaws and delay the election of new officers until the July meeting, when new regents would hopefully have been seated and can participate in leadership selection. After a lot of thought on this issue, I have decided I will not be bringing that motion at this time. My understanding is Regent Kenyanya will bring the motion, but I will not. And the reason I chose not to is, to be frank, I very much feel that we need leadership, permanent leadership in place now to deal with what are very difficult and turbulent and challenging times. In light of the fact that it is unknown as to when new regents will be ultimately appointed and seated following the work by the governor, I simply don't feel that having temporary leadership in place is the right thing for this university at this time. So I will not be bringing the motion. But that said, my understanding is Regent Kenyanya will be bringing the motion. And so before you do, let me explain how this will work. To suspend the bylaws, a motion and second are needed. The motion is not debatable and is not amendable. To suspend the bylaws, an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the entire membership of the board is needed, or 8 yes votes. 8 votes are needed regardless of how many regents are attending the meeting. Before I invite a motion to suspend the bylaws, which is not debatable, does anyone have any initial thoughts that they wish to share at this time? Yes, Regent Davenport.
Thank you. I just want to convey my confidence in the nominating committee and their job they did in putting forward a slate.
Thank you. Any other initial thoughts that people wish to share? All right, is there a motion to, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Regent Verheugen.
Chair Mayron, I share your sentiment. If there was certainty in when new regents would be seated, and preferably with no gap between the current regents leaving and the new regents beginning, I would give serious thought to suspending the bylaws. However, I share your sentiment that the need for permanent leadership is important. I firmly believe that every regent that's sitting here around the horseshoe has the interests of the university in mind when they make a decision on who should serve as leadership of this board, and this group of regents knows all of the candidates at this, or the nominating committee's recommendations at this time. And for those reasons, I wouldn't be supporting a motion to suspend the bylaws.
All right, any other thoughts? All right, is there a motion to suspend Article 3, Section D of the bylaws to defer the election until the July 2025 meeting?
Madam Chair, I make that motion, and I'll add some comments with that since it's not debatable thereafter. So
Let me ask, is there, first of all, is there a second?
I would second that motion.
Thank you, Regent Gully. All right, it has been moved and seconded. Since debate is not permitted, we move directly to the vote, but can we allow Regent Kenyanya, who brought the motion, to make his comments?
thank you, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you yielding that to me. So, Regents, as you're aware, I think the initial nominating committee included myself, actually, and then that was revised. The context behind this motion for myself, anyway, is that after that initial communication, I, as a member of leadership, got some feedback from a couple board members that they felt leadership should be chosen by the new board, the incoming board, and not the lame duck regents, if you will, Madam Chair. So I had good conversations with a couple regents on this, and brought it back to leadership and conferred with board office on the bylaws and what's possible and what's not. in my opinion, I think reasonable minds can disagree on how that should be handled. Different bodies handle that differently. I actually think this format is not uncommon on many boards. It may be uncommon in maybe a legislative body and whatnot, so I was able to have those conversations with those regions. I feel I'm actually very sympathetic to the comments offered by the chair and the chair of the nominating committee, and thank the committee for their work. This motion for me is kind of following through on a commitment to board members as a member of leadership that had a concern and was brought back to leadership and addressed. And I think what we indicated to those board members was that we would offer this amendment, and that was their belief. So, I completely understand that gap may be difficult for the university, depending how long it is, and the board has the ability. The then current board has the ability to adapt and meet on an interim basis and, pivot as needed. But because board members brought a concern and board leadership committed to acting in a certain way, I feel it necessary to bring forward this motion just, for consistency.
Thank you, Regent Kenyanya. All right. With this time, we will move directly to the vote. All those in favor of the motion to suspend, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, did we?
Sorry, I said aye.
Oh, all right, okay. All those opposed to the motion to suspend, please say no.
No.
The motion does not carry, and therefore the bylaws are not suspended. At this time, we are required to proceed to the election of officers. As noted in the nominating committee, the slate includes 2 vice chairs. Unless there is an objection, we will proceed to elect 2 vice chairs as permitted by the bylaws. Are there any objections to having us elect a chair and 2 vice chairs? All right, hearing no objections, we will then proceed with electing 2 vice chairs as part of the work we are doing. Are there any additional nominations for board chair or for vice chair? All right, hearing no additional nominations, the nominations are now closed. We have the following nominees for each office: Doug Hips, Chair; Ruth Johnson; and Penny Wheeler, Vice Chair. Given that there are no additional nominations, the bylaws allow the slate to be elected as one motion. Is there a motion to elect the nominated slate?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no.
No.
The motion is approved. I declare that the following individuals have been elected to serve as officers for 2025 to 2027 term, which begins July 1, 2025 and ends June 30 of 2027. Doug Hips, Chair; Ruth Johnson, Vice Chair; and Penny Wheeler, Vice Chair. All I can say to all of you is, may the force be with you. You will need that and more. All right. Our third item is other business. Is there any other business to come before the annual meeting today? Hearing none, the 2025 annual meeting of the Board of Regents is adjourned. With that, I now call to order the June regular meeting of the University of Minnesota Board of Regents. We will begin with our meeting with the introduction of a very familiar new senior leader, President Cunningham. Please join me at the podium.
Upright. So good afternoon, good morning. I think we're still morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce someone who truly needs no introduction. Mike Volna has served in many leadership roles at the university since 1992, including 16 years as controller. You know him most recently from his role as Associate Vice President and Assistant Chief Financial Officer. Today, we welcome him into his new role as Vice President for Finance and Assistant Chief Financial Officer in the Office of the Executive Vice President for Finance and Operations. Mike will continue to partner closely with the academic and administrative leaders to steward the university's financial resources in these difficult times with transparency, accountability, and effectiveness. This new title really reflects the breadth of Mike's leadership, recognizes him appropriately for the leadership that he shows and the decision-making he has at the university, and his essential role in the financial strength and the stability of the university. It has been so wonderful to get to know Mike this past year, and I'm grateful for his continued service and partnership. So congratulations, Mike, and if you'll join us, I think we get to do pictures and handshakes in the horseshoe. I think I do, yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay, all in my hands. Wonderful. Congratulations again, Mike. Next, we would like to recognize this year's student recipients of the Fulbright Award. The Fulbright Award is a prestigious international exchange program that offers college students the opportunity to study, conduct research, or teach English abroad, fostering mutual understanding between the United States and other countries, more important now than ever. I'll ask each award recipient to wait in the audience until your name is announced, and then please join Chair Mayron at the Regent's seal. Once we have completed announcing all the awardees, we invite you to walk around the horseshoe so that our other board members may congratulate you as well. This year, the University of Minnesota has 6 recipients of the Fulbright Award, and 3 of those are able to join us today. Madison Kucher, a 2025 graduate in biochemistry, College of Biological Sciences. Marie Ronderer, a 2025 graduate in biochemistry in the College of Biological Sciences. Sayumi Ranasinghe, a 2025 graduate in microbiology in the College of Biological Sciences. And the following awardees were unable to join us today, but also have received this award. Vanessa Shashinsky, a doctoral student in ecology and evolution and behavior in the College of Biological Sciences. Reed Groman, a 2021 graduate in microbiology in the College of Biological Sciences. And Jameson Ward, a 2025 graduate in Earth Sciences College of Science and Engineering. Please join me in congratulating.
Congratulations, Madison. I got my own mug.
Thank you. I have a thank you to Kathy. And now I'm so honored to have the chance to thank Kathy Schmidl-Koffer for her services as the president and CEO of the University of Minnesota Foundation. She is also an exceptional business leader who has guided the foundation for over the past 11 years. She has consistently brought clarity and complexity to complexity, turned challenges into opportunities, and kept UMF grounded in both data-driven and people-driven decisions. Her leadership, unwavering integrity have been the foundation's greatest assets. She's used her expertise to empower others and to lead with humility and gratitude, I think one of Kathy's favorite words, to support people and passion and possibility at the university. So Kathy, on behalf of the entire University of the community, congratulations on a remarkable career. Thank you so much for all you've done to ensure this is a strong future for the institution. And please join us. The marching band, we really need like the best rendition of the marching band possible now in the background. Where's Jason when you need him? Yeah. Wonderful. Last but most definitely not least, I want to take this time again to thank Provost Rachel Croson as she steps down as Executive Vice President and Provost at the end of this month. In the past 5 years as our Chief Academic Officer, Provost Croson has exemplified steady leadership and unwavering perseverance. She joined the University of Minnesota in March of 2020 and played a vital role in developing and implementing new policies and procedures so the university could safely and effectively navigate the uncertainty of the pandemic and eventually resume on-campus operations. And of course, it did not get easier after that, and you led this university through those times as well. After that notable start, Provost Croson showed her unique ability to identify strong leaders, hiring 13 of our current academic deans and 6 vice provosts during her tenure, cementing her lasting legacy. She also drove the implementation of the MPAC 2025 strategic plan, which elevated the university's mission of education, research, and outreach. And personally, she was welcoming and supportive to me as I came on board last summer, and more importantly, helping to shepherd the institution through presidential transitions in the year before that and the year before this as well. And for that, your steady leadership has really left a legacy for the university. And for that, Provost Croson, we thank you from the bottom of our heart with gratitude if you want to join us.
Committee, the report of the Naming Committee, and the report of the 2025 Regents Professor Selection Advisory Committee. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question, make a comment, or separate out an item to be voted on separately before I invite a motion to approve the minutes and the consent report? Hearing none, seeing none, is there a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Regent Gully, excuse me.
I apologize. I'm having internet problems, so I can't get onto the packet right this second, and maybe I could get some help. But I was wondering, is this, is the Northwind sale in the consent agenda this time? And so I apologize if I'm mistaken about that. I can't get my packet open.
Can you address that, Executive Director Steves?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the consent report does not include the Northwind land sale. That was approved at the May meeting.
Yeah.
The minutes that are for the May meeting are here, but that simply reflects the action that was taken at that previous meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And is someone able to help Regent
Now we get online.
with her technical issues?
Oh, thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes and the consent report?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. Next, we will hear the report of President Cunningham. President Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair Mayron, and good morning again. Finally, once more, I really do just want to thank Provost Croson for her service to the university and her support of me as I stepped into this role. Thank you. I spoke earlier about her legacy and her commitment, which is evident to the university.
Shame for approving the Northwind sale. Our university is being run by money-hungry animals who would rather lick the feet of
At
people
this
who
time,
want
I would call for order.
than listen to their own students. Just tying the future of your students to an industry that profits off of genocide make you feel proud. You are raising tuition by 7% and laying off hundreds of people
the meeting
who
to
make a
order.
living helping our university run. And you somehow have
we
enough
will take a
money
short
to go
recess.
at the feet of more hungry dogs. You have hounded and sent police after students protesting the genocide, and now you are taking pride in selling out to people who make money killing masses of people for a living. Shame! Shame! You guys say you serve the university, but you don't actually give a damn about anything except money. You let ICE abduct a student in broad daylight, and you rent out the gun range that you were part to ICE so that you can help them get even better at kidnapping our students and our neighbors. You are raising tuition and making it more difficult for students to attend this institution. You are threatening cultural centers to comply with Trump's bullshit DEI policies. You are quick to cut funding from cultural studies programs. You screw over your unions. You choose to ignore the students telling you that they don't want their money invested in an industry that profits off of blood. You ignore the demands of the Truth Project and the local indigenous.
Please quiet down and allow this event to continue. The university honors free speech and expression of the rights of the community members. However, demonstrators or disruptive behaviors are not permitted at this meeting. And as the violation of university policy, you're welcome to stay if you remain quiet.
All right, I call the Board of Regents meeting back to order. President Cunningham, perhaps you'd like to start your statements again, or your report again.
Yeah, I'll finish on the note I was ending, which was, of course, my gratitude for Provost Croson for leading the university through a complicated set of the last 5 years, including presidential transitions, and keeping her steady hand here, which has allowed the university to be in this great place overall that we are right now. I'm going to move on to a conversation on budget and following from the yesterday meeting. That focus on mission that we just spoke about with the provost is very much on my mind as we approach your consideration for the FY 2026 budget at our special meeting next week. The budget that my team and I are proposing is not an easy one, and these are not easy times. Perhaps I'll get to be your president in a year where there's lots of extra money going around from the state and federal government, but this was not that year. It will involve a reduction in workforce over time. It will also involve a reduction, as we heard yesterday, from some programs that we know many people cherish and love, and these are the difficult decisions that need to be made in this time. I want to reiterate to the board and to the audience here that although our team and my budget team and I have identified the need for these 7% scope reductions, it would be inappropriate for the president to be choosing which of those programs and areas that a scope needs to be cut. We're a decentralized university, and decision-making and authority for the local context is given to department chairs, deans, and chancellors. They are asked to make the difficult decisions. Each school and budget unit is different. In some places, it's at the chancellor's discretion across the campus. In some of our larger schools, it goes to the dean's decision. And then how that dean or chancellor, if they choose to then involve their department chairs and involve their community, many have over the past year, on where to make the programmatic cuts. There was not a mandate that everyone be cut like peanut butter 7% across. Each budgeting unit has discretion at their local authority and leader where it should lie, where they have the most knowledge on where the strategic direction of their particular college and units and campuses need to grow or need to reduce to meet these difficult times. In many schools, these conversations did not start this month. These conversations began with leaders, senior administrators and leaders last October. And by January, they had to provide their proposed scope reduction cuts to our budget team centrally. During that time, they were encouraged to socialize this broadly across their communities, build the consensus and any shared knowledge or understanding that they as leaders would need in order to make the difficult decisions that were needed within their units. I know of many such deans and chancellors that brought together faculty groups, got input across their leaders to make the difficult decisions. In some places, that may have meant some programs were completely cut, which is 100% cut. In other places, it may mean that some programs got more funding. If this is dependent on where the deans and chancellors, and in some of the bigger schools, department chairs, believe the direction is needed to move them ahead towards the next 5 years. These decisions on how to make those reductions are not and should not be made by a president several levels removed from the actual on-the-ground work of the actual courses and where the future direction of their students in their field needs to go. So I just want to have that level set, and I'm happy to answer more questions about it. And I know that our chancellors and deans, and in many schools, department chairs have had long conversations about the difficult decisions made on where scope needs to be reduced, where programs need to be reduced, and what the identified workforce is with that. Some of the numbers I heard yesterday are not consistent with the budget information that we were given. We were told in our budgeting that for the 7% scope reduction across the full university, we anticipate about 300 FTE headcount. That would be across the full university. I certainly would not expect hundreds in any one particular unit across the full university. At least that is as of the predictions that were provided to us
this past year. With the federal stop work orders that have happened, those we don't pick. The federal government has stopped funding particular grants. When they stop funding a program, if that program has 10 or 30 people on it, we are working to readjust or reassign people, and when that's not possible, then we won't have funding for those folks anymore. To date, that's about between 150 and 200 people that, due to the federal government stopping, this is not the university capitulating, they simply have stopped funding those grants, and with that, we have to adjust that workforce. And we're doing that the best we can with the RAISE program and trying to make transitions as easy as possible, find other places and other programs people can work on with possible, but there are things that are in our control and there are things that are not in our control. As we face these significant cuts, both in federal research funding as well as the flat state support, again, which means that 3 to 4% reduction in our spending power, which over the 3 years will be a $75 million decrease in our real funding, together with the tuition revenue that is not kept up with inflation, and the $40 million the federal government has already cut from us, we do need a larger tuition increase than we've sought in recent years, and we do not take any of that lightly. Before I go into more budget details, I want to share again a couple of statistics that show how effectively the university have kept costs low for students over the past decade, although we all wish we could have kept them even lower. Twin Cities tuition adjusted for inflation with our proposed increase will be 3% lower than it was a decade ago. We do not have runaway tuition. It is 3% lower than it was a decade ago when we account for inflationary increases. Specifically for the students that this university is a public land grant with accessibility and affordability in its mission, with those with a family income below $110,000, the net price is 39% lower than it was 10 years ago. 39% lower than it was 10 years ago, adjusted for inflation. This is not runaway tuition. This is us managing fiscally responsible budget and managing inflation as it goes along. We have a lot to do to make the University of Minnesota education affordable, and we will never lose sight of that, working with our donors, working with financial aid, some of which is put aside in our budget this year as part of our O&M budget. It certainly goes to scholarships. So we bring this proposal to you with the firm conviction that this is the path ahead to a thriving university, to upholding our mission, which demands real choices. We discussed yesterday real choices for how we invest in our buildings, so they're not crumbling, so we can fulfill the commitment we have to students who do come here, how we can fulfill a commitment to our workforce that gets up every day and works so hard to make sure that our students get an impressive and excellent education. And we heard yesterday from some of our faculty that indeed say investing in the workforce is investing in our students and their education. So this budget reflects a clear-eyed view of our priorities. Reining in some of our activities, even as beloved as some of those are, will allow us to invest in our people and our infrastructure, while also making sure our mission thrives into the future. That starts again with investing in the people who carry out our mission. At a time of enormous uncertainty and no small amount of discouragement among those who work in higher education, we are demonstrating our commitment to our faculty and our staff by investing in them, and thus investing in our students. We are strongly committed to being good financial stewards, and in a difficult time with over $115 million of cuts facing us, we are bringing you a balanced budget with those difficult choices. Our campuses, college, and units are working hand in hand as we model these budget reductions, and I'm so grateful for the active and supportive leader for the university for that partnership. Soon, as Executive Vice President Goldman noted, we will introduce a hiring protocol across the university, again, with local control, simply so we can track, as both the public and you demand of us, any growth that we have in this time of increased uncertainty over these next months. We must monitor this carefully. We're also pursuing new sources of revenue to invest in our academic priorities. One example of this is our ongoing work with the University of Minnesota Foundation to identify creative new approaches to both broad and targeted philanthropy. Another example is, again, our RAISE program, which we're now working in conjunction with the foundation on, and how we help those scholars and scientists continue to advance their work with that $40 million less funding that's happened. How do we help those real people, those real 150 to 200 people, transition to either other projects or respectfully finished projects they have, so that their careers are not suddenly disrupted by a change in federal funding that is out of our control? This budget positions us to back up in no uncertain term those priorities that we've outlined as critical to fulfilling our mission. And as we work to complete our 5-year strategic plan, a plan that certainly my office is not working on our own, that has been a broad, community-engaged effort all across the university with thousands and thousands of inputs over many, many months. Together as a community, we will come up with what that strategic plan should be, and with that, with the investments that we will make as we move forward towards that plan. Those will help us execute on longer-term items that will commit us to giving our most urgent attention. On a more personal note, I want to share, and forgive me, Chair Mayor, and I know I've taken some time here, but I want to share just with you a few reflections on my first year as president. It seems fitting at the end of my first year here. As I was thinking through some of the moments that have stayed with me, there is a common theme among all of them: the direct and practical benefits this university brings to our state, our nation, and our world. Put simply, this great university that does amazing things. I was struck by that on my visit to Morris campus, where I saw the history-making windmills and learned about our efforts to enhance energy storage, the linchpin in bringing sustainable energy future to a reality, something that we're excellent here at the university. It struck me again when I visited our student garden in St. Paul, met with one of the student interns who's getting hands-on experience there, and learned about the development of Kernza, a University of Minnesota product and the first commercially available perennial grain product. I thought about it in talking to our undergraduates, the formative nature of their experiential learning opportunities, which I hear everywhere is something that we excel at across our schools. We provide a majority, a percentage of our students get some hands-on learning experience, which is in keeping with our land grant mission, whether it is study abroad, internships downtown, or even intentional development approach that we've taken to student employment here on campus. Thanks to outstanding faculty, the university delivers a world-class education each and every day, and then plants the real-life experiences it will carry through in our students beyond. That's true in one way for our undergraduates, but it doesn't stop there. Our rural physician program gives many medical students a distinct learning experience that many will testify have changed lives. It's extended and expanded, and we heard a wonderful presentation yesterday for more than 1,300 communities in places where scarcity for medical care is a real challenge. And then I've gotten to experience events like the State Fair or our visits to the Shakopee, Metawankaton Sioux, or the Pattee Hall opening to build relationships that help extend all of this university has to offer into our communities. And of course, I've had my own version of experiential learning education too. I got to conduct the marching band at a football game. I got to participate on the field with the cheer team while we held the platform over our heads for Goldie to do his push-ups and other Goldie-like things. And I got to see close the athleticism of our women's hockey team and our world-class dance team, two very different demonstrations of strength and precision that share a common pursuit of true elegance. I even got to call out numbers at student bingo night. Each one of those delightful moments reminds me what we do here in our strategy and stewardship of this amazing university is not an abstraction, but comes back to the success and thriving of the people we serve to lead every single day. Finally, any reflection on this year would be remiss if I did not take a moment to offer my thanks to few of the many people who have made key contributions to the long-term health of this university. First, I want to thank the legislature for its continued support of the university by holding us flat in very, very difficult budget times. And I want to thank the government relations team that helped ensure our story gets out in front of those legislators. They do know us now so that we can make their decisions with the best information and perspective. I also want to pause and thank our 4 regents who are completing their service on the board at this meeting. Regent Mary Davenport, Regent Mike Kenyanya, Chair Janie Mayron, and Regent Bo Toyorabi. In an era where public service is not always fully understood and appreciated and has difficult days sometimes, like yesterday and today, you each have provided a powerful example of what it means to give generosity of your time, your effort, your wisdom for the benefit of our entire state and beyond. This board is charged with articulating a vision for the university, and your work month after month, year after year to ensure the university fulfills its mission of education, research, and outreach has been exemplary, and I've learned so much working with each of you today. Myself and my team are deeply grateful for that service and the gift of your time. Let's please give them a round of applause. My thanks as well to the board as a whole, to each of you as individuals. I'm grateful for your continued support, and I'm proud of what we've achieved together in a single year. I look forward to building on this partnership as we safeguard and treasure that which is the University of Minnesota, to continue to build on the excellence and impact. So thank you. Before we close out my report, which is coming very quickly, I want to share a brief video celebration of commencement across our colleges and campuses. These smiling faces reflecting years of dedication and the work that many of you on the board here have done and hope for success ahead are the reason we're all here. So hail to thee, Minnesota, if we can cue the video. Maybe. No video? Okay. Oh, perhaps later video. Imagine commencement in the beautiful video. And the happy smiling faces. Perhaps later we'll get to cue that up.
Well, let us know at any time. We will stop what we are doing and we will watch that video because I think it's really important. Great. Thank you. All right, now we will turn to my report, which is starting to feel like the longest Minnesota goodbye ever.
In the driveway, right?
Pardon?
In the driveway.
There you go. June marks the end of the board's annual work plan, so I'd like to use my time this morning to briefly reflect on the various aspects of the work we've accomplished over the last year. We activated a shared strategic plan for the university's health sciences that serves the state's health needs. Alongside President Cunningham, we supported a collaborative process to begin development of the university's system-wide strategic plan, Maroon, Gold, and Bold. We maintained a sustained focus on advancing the next chapter of the university's medical mission to serve Minnesotans in every corner of our great state. We engaged with the university's shared governance groups throughout the academic year. And we heard from many constituencies, including a very thoughtful report from the student representatives to the Board of Regents, and we will hear more from them today. And while we're on that point, my board colleagues and I want to take a moment to thank each of the student representatives for their service to the board over the past year. Your role in bringing the student voice into our conversations is greatly appreciated. Although this year's work plan comes to an end, our work is ongoing. In July, the board will spend time with President Cunningham and work to establish board priorities for 2025 and 2026. The board looks forward to sharing those priorities with the university community in the fall. In addition, I'd like to share a recap of the board's engagements over the past academic year. We piloted listening sessions on each campus to hear directly from students, faculty, staff, and members of our community on each campus. We visited several research and outreach centers across the state that are advancing the university's mission. And we were able to visit 3 Twin City campus collegiate units this year: the College of Veterinary Medicine, the College of Liberal Arts, and the College of Design. And before I conclude my report and we turn to our next agenda item, I personally want to thank everybody here, not only around the Horseshoe and the senior administrators and our president, but I also want to give a very special and heartfelt thanks to the Office of the Board of Regents and those individuals who make us look really good and keep us in line and are just outstanding. It's just an outstanding office. Executive Director Steves, that you run and that you have put out just a fabulous team together. And I cannot thank you enough for all that you do and for all of them in their contribution to the university and to the Board of Regents. So I would like to. And with that, I will conclude my report and we will turn to the next agenda item. The video is queued. Stop what we're doing here. Let's watch the video.
Each of you has achieved real and significant achievements that we all collectively honor today. You've run into and overcome tremendous obstacles, You've learned to dig deep, to bounce back, and to navigate a world that is more varied and complex, and at times more uncertain than you ever might have imagined. So if you haven't already, I hope you find a little time amid this fun whirlwind to pause and reflect on each of those accomplishments, and that's why events like today are all the more important. And know that as you make your way into the world, this university community stands behind you at every single step, cheering you on. Boldly go out and show the world what a University of Minnesota graduate has to offer. Join together with more than 2/3 of your fellow alumni around the globe, making our world a better place.
All right. Oop.
Done.
Is that done? Okay.
We don't need to lose it.
Okay. All right, our next agenda item, item 6, is to receive and file reports, which includes the virtual forum comments linked in the docket materials. The next item is that we are going to take up is the Board of Regents Code of Conduct for members of the Board of Regents, the annual review. With us today are General Counsel Peterson and Executive Director Steves. General Counsel Peterson, would you like to start?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Chair Maron. I appreciate that you are veterans of these presentations. As you know, my perspective is that the Code of Conduct is more than just a set of rules. These principles, if you live them well, convert into tone at the top, culture, and ultimately your effectiveness as a board. 2 years ago, I focused on how collegiality underpins the Code of Conduct, how you work through policy differences between regents and also over the issues that divide the constituencies of the university. Last year, I focused on service and the humility that underpins the Code of Conduct. This morning, if you'll give me the privilege, I'd like to focus on how you can live out this Code of Conduct when the university faces unprecedented challenges. This is not a crisis like COVID, but at the same time, higher education is clearly center stage. You know this well, federal funding challenges, state budget constraints. You know, the state loves the University of Minnesota, but you're matched up with a lot of other state priorities. The university is at the crossroads of a lot of public policy controversy. At the same time, this is a home for conflicting points of view. And with all of that, it's a time when the university community is taxed in a lot of different directions. Certainly true of administration. You think of faculty and staff. They have concerns over compensation, but at this point, it's deeper in that there are public challenges to their life's work. Students, you know, they're struggling to find their place and certainly have tuition worries ever present. So in these extraordinary times, it's a time for the Board of Regents to live out your fiduciary duties in a way that sort of fits the need for extraordinary leadership. A couple of weeks ago, I attended a panel discussion of corporate leaders, and one of the speakers was Bill George, the former CEO and board chair of Medtronic. He also teaches leadership at Harvard Business School. And his main message to the corporate audience was to counsel them to stay true to core values whenever things are in flux, sort of as they are today. And he had a lot of comments about that. So for you, and from my perspective, it returns you to your code of conduct. Those guiding principles use words like mission, vision, land grant legacy. The public tends to see this board as a legislative oversight body, and you certainly have those attributes. But you're also a board charged with the governance of a $4.8 billion enterprise. So how do you set the compass in extraordinary times like that? And I think that's where the guiding principles confirm that you have the tools for that mission. It provides constitutional autonomy as a foundation, which gives you the ability to define what it means to, quote, keep the welfare of the university at all times paramount, unquote. So in other words, you define the educational mission choices over institutional speech, budget choices, where compensation and tuition are a lurking tension, the place of Gopher Athletics in the NIL world. You chart that mission, but you also have the tools to enforce it. Unlike a lot of universities around the country, you control litigation, which gives you the power to sue. It also gives you the power to settle. If I move from guidelines to fiduciary duties, the fiduciary duties within the Code of Conduct present you judgment calls as to how you sort of exercise your responsibilities in challenging times. Now, certainly not my place to make those decisions. The duty's on your shoulders to weigh what is the best way to set the thermostat. But those duties are, as you know, duty of care. So how much do you rely on experts? How much deference do you give administration in these times when administration's on the front lines of all that's coming at the university? How do you support those that have your delegated authority? Duty of loyalty. How do you carry out your undivided loyalty? It's a time where you need to go out of your way to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest. Duty of obedience, that fidelity to law and mission. How do you make it transparent to the university and to the public that you're dutiful, that you're authentic, and that you're humble as you boldly advocate for the University of Minnesota? Tone at the top. It's just critical in tough times, and that's no matter the substantive decisions that you have to make. With conflicts of interest, as I often do, please keep in mind that OGC is here to help. Conflict issues can involve knotty questions, world of gray. So if we're searching for safe harbor, know that it's really good to talk to your colleagues. It's important to talk to the board office, and we're here for you as well. Also, as I do every year as part of this presentation, I confirm I've fulfilled my duty to review your financial disclosure forms, evidence of your accountability to your obligation to maintain undivided loyalty to the university. So I do confirm that all of your financial forms are in compliance with the Code of Conduct. With that, I thank you for the privilege of conducting this annual review.
Thank you very much, General Counsel Peterson. Executive Director Steves, do you have any comments you wish to make?
Madam Chair, members of the board, you have a really outstanding general counsel. Let me just tell you, you have an amazing general counsel.
And could be the office of general.
And his team. I don't have anything to add in particular to the remarks made, but I would be happy to answer and assist with answering any questions.
All right, I will now open up this portion of the agenda for discussion. Any questions or comments? Well, let me just say, General Counsel Peterson, having now hear you do this review on an annual basis, I believe this is my 6th time, how much I appreciate the wisdom that you bring to us when you conduct these reviews. But more importantly, and building on what Executive Director Steve said, you and your office and the service that you provide to us through the Office of General Counsel is unmatched in a good way. I personally am so thankful for the counsel and the wisdom that you have provided to me and provided to the university in what it seems like day by day, a barrage of very complex and challenging issues. You and your office are one of a kind, one in a million, and we are so fortunate to have you here with your team to support the university. So I personally want to thank you, and I suspect I'm also speaking on behalf of the whole board, but I wanted to make sure I said that. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Chair Miron, thanks for those generous comments. As you know, it's a privilege to serve all of you, which, as I know from the case captions, means service to the University of Minnesota, because by definition, you are the University of Minnesota. And I meant it when I said Office of General Counsel, because we have 40-some professionals in the office of, in different capacities. And as a management matter, it's a light rudder is all they need. And I just have to make sure I don't mess it up for them. So thank you for bearing with us, and everybody appreciates working with you.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments on this item? All right, thank you very much, General Counsel Peterson. At this point, we will turn to item 8 in the agenda, which are the reports of the Senate Consultative Committee, the Faculty Consultative Committee, the Civil Service Consultative Committee, the Professional and Administrative Consultative Committee, and the Student Senate Consultative Committee. SCC and FCC Chair Associate Professor Jennifer Goodnow, CSCC Chair Stacy Maurer, PACC Chair Kit Brashear, and Student Senate Chair Taiwo Aremu are with us today. And while the presenters get ready, I would like to stress the importance of shared governance within the university system. Each of these consultative committees undertakes work that is an essential part of the decision-making and process at the university. Is everybody at the table who's going to be joining together? Or it looks like we might be missing a couple people, but maybe they'll be here shortly or attending via Zoom. But why don't we go ahead and start first with Chair Goodnow.
Thank you very much, Chair Miron, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to share a report from the University Senate and the Faculty Senate. While I highlight here a few notable topics of the Senate this year, it is only a small fraction of the work accomplished by our many committees and senates. And that work would not be possible without the amazing staff in our Senate office. So we are super appreciative of all the help and work that they put in. We've navigated a lot of exciting transitions this year as we have welcomed new leadership and staff at multiple levels and benefited from a fresh outside perspective on our shared governance. Turning now to some of the key actions for the year. Our continuing efforts to address concerns of term faculty and P&A instructional staff took an important step forward this spring as 2 statements from the Term Faculty and Academic Professionals Subcommittee, TFAPS, were approved by the FCC and Faculty Senate. Those statements are shared as links in the docket, and we are hopeful that the Office of Human Resources and the Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs will continue the work they've begun with shared governance in consideration and implementation of those recommendations. I'd like to highlight a few of those from the report. Given the decentralized nature of our units, several of the recommendations are really looking to create consistency and replicate best practices that already exist in some units. For example, making sure that contract faculty who are doing the same work have the same job code, and codifying clear and consistent pathways to promotion. Of perhaps special note as it relates to a board policy, often these faculty approach retirement after decades of work for the university, and there is no current version of emeritus status available to them. For our P&A teaching specialists and lecturers, similar issues arise from decentralization, but there's even greater inconsistency across units. That inconsistency has resulted in a recommendation to do a careful and thorough comprehensive job family study. There does exist some more fundamental concerns around pay structure and workload standardization that will need to be addressed, but that would be benefited by such a job study. I'm certain it's no surprise to any of you that there remain concerns and questions among faculty members about the Board of Regents resolution related to institutional speech and its subsequent implementation, and we certainly look forward to the October updates. Rather than rehash the discussions from February and March, I would like to highlight an unaddressed gap that I see resulting from the non-implementation of the policy approved by the University Senate. That policy developed with careful thought and consultative effort detailed critical steps that a unit should undertake in order to craft a statement. Those steps were in part designed to protect faculty, staff, and students from being caught in compelled speech and designed to have an inclusive process of writing a statement. And since the board's guidelines indicate that a statement could be made by a unit if the president determines it to have an actual or potential impact on the mission and operations of the university, we are without the benefit conferred by the Senate's proposed policy of providing a structure for units to use in writing such a statement, which would ensure consistent processes. Given that this is an ongoing process of implementation, I hope that conversations with shared governance can continue on this topic. Unfortunately, continuing on a theme of a lot of effort and a less than satisfying conclusion, I turn to the changes in general education requirement that were under consideration by the Senate for several years. Provost Croson provided an update to the Mission Fulfillment Committee in May of 2025, which covered the history and concerns related to updating the general education on the Twin Cities campus, so I won't rehash that summary either. Instead, I want to make a comment about what happens next and where we go from here. The Council on Liberal Education will begin recertifying courses for the current diversified core and designated themes of our current liberal education curriculum, which was put on hold in anticipation of a new general education curriculum. This rigorous process will ensure that at least our courses remain relevant and appropriate. Vice Provost for Undergraduate Research Singh and incoming Provost Ritter have already begun conversations debriefing the recent efforts to update the curriculum. Given that the budget is the topic of forefront in many people's minds right now, I did want to tie into the ongoing Senate efforts around the workforce reinvestment resolution, which is now, you've been forced to listen to me talk about it for 2 years. But that was in part a response to many years of not investing in our employees at a high enough level to keep pace with inflation, our peers, and the market. And we see and are appreciative of the inclusion by the President and her administration of the 3% merit raise pool and 1% market adjustment pool, as well as the reoccurring funds set aside for recommendations coming out of the working groups that we have for the workforce reinvestment resolution. And we are certainly grateful to the legislature for not cutting our funding. We do understand that their actions put a difficult decision on your plate for the fiscal year 2026 budget. But a budget that invests in UMN employees who are dedicated to our university is also an investment in our students and the state, as those faculty and staff are essential for carrying forward the mission. And this is also in line with the board priority that seems like a year ago you brought forward from that July meeting with retaining and rewarding the university's talented faculty and staff. As shared in the docket materials, item 2 that I want to mention relative to the budget is the Senate Consultative Committee approved a statement this year in support of the funding for permanent safety fencing on the Washington Street Bridge. I'm delighted to learn that that project will be moving forward to provide added safety to our university community. While we don't know what unprecedented or uncertain opportunities and challenges will unfold next for the University of Minnesota, I am certain that continuing precedented collaborations and shared governance between our Senate, administration, and the Board of Regents will allow us to weather these situations and emerge as an institution which continues to lead and serve our state, nation, and world. These are times that will be well served by the oft-referenced three-legged stool, and if that three-legged stool is strong and doesn't wobble, we will emerge from these times better. Finally, as my term as chair of SCC and FCC comes to an end, I would like to personally thank the board for your support and engagement in working with me and shared governance. I have valued your thoughts and insights, as well as the opportunities that you gave me personally to participate in the work of the university as a faculty shared governance representative. Chair Mayron, my colleague, P&A Consultative Committee Chair Kit Brashears will next report on the work of the P&A Senate, and I'm happy to answer questions or provide more information either today or as a follow-up to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, I have on my agenda notes that we're going to hear next from Chair Mayer regarding as she is the chair of the CSCC. So we'll hear next from you, and then we'll go on to Chair Brashear. Thank you.
Chair Mayron, thank you. Members of the board and President Cunningham, thank you again today for the time. As I conclude my year representing civil service as CSCC chair, I'm honored to present this report highlighting our workforce's vital contributions to the university's mission. The docket materials detail civil service's extensive shared governance achievements this year. I'm proud of my colleagues who consistently serve as the doers in our system, the dedicated professionals who make our university function. As the university's original recognized staff group, civil service employees remain the operational backbone of this institution in partnership and collaboration with our workforce at all levels, inclusive of faculty, AFSCME, Teamsters, GLU UE, professional and administrative, and many more. We are the workforce that enables student success, opening course registration, organizing classroom schedules, processing scholarship awards, and advancing research through bench work, field studies, and technical support. We educate communities through extension programs and keep stakeholders informed through our communication efforts. As you consider budget decisions, I ask you to remember that civil service staff are essential partners in the university's success. While our colleagues are deeply committed to our mission and values, they also face the same rising costs affecting all Minnesotans. Our workforce's dedication cannot continue to be the reason their contributions are undervalued, particularly amid current inflationary pressures and flat financial support from our state legislature, which we all know flat equals negative, especially in our current financial climate. Thank you, President Cunningham and our regents, for recognizing these salary concerns and taking steps to support our workforce in the budget. As I noted in December, we are not a university without faculty, students, or staff. Regarding the PEAK project, while I acknowledge the successes leadership has shared, I encourage continued attention to implementation impacts. Many civil service employees have seen their meaningful relational work shift towards transactional reporting requirements. It's erased the relational aspects of how we deliver, and it's concerning. While staff have adapted to these changes, we must consider long-term costs during this period of financial challenge. I sincerely thank you for including civil service and our voice in these discussions, for helping our community recognize the essential role of civil service staff at the University of Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we will hear from Chair Brashear.
Greetings, Chair Mayron and members of the Board of Regents, and a warm hello to you, President Cunningham. I'm Kit Brashears, the chair of the Professional and Administrative Senate and Communications Director and an instructor at the university's Bakken Center for Spirituality and Healing, an interdisciplinary health sciences unit that focuses on mental health, well-being, and human flourishing. I'm here today once more representing the 7,700 professional and administrative employees across the University of Minnesota system. During my final report to you today as chair of this body, I'll begin, as I often do, with a note of gratitude, revisit the theme of education about P&A employees that I shared in my winter report, and highlight the significant accomplishments of the P&A Consultative Committee, also known as PAC. As I begin today, I would like to offer thanks. President Cunningham, it has been a sincere pleasure to work with you and your team this year. I am, like all of us, aware that your first year has been less than easy. Yet you have weathered many challenges through collaboration with governance leaders and your talented team. Early in your tenure, you made time to welcome new senators to the P&A Senate, which was meaningful for all of them. And any time I've reached out, you or Maggie Flotten from your office has responded quickly. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank Vice President for Human Resources, Ken Horstman, who is the P&A Senate liaison to your cabinet. My chair-elect Tony Abst, Jacqueline Adair from the Senate office, and I met with Ken monthly. And through many candid meetings, we rolled up our sleeves to solve challenges raised by P&A employees around the system. Finally, I'd like to extend a special thanks to Regent Mary Turner, who attended an engaging meeting of the P&A Consultative Committee, sharing thoughts with our leaders and truly listening to concerns and ideas that were shared. When I encouraged this board to connect with employees during my mid-year report, Regent Turner did so quickly. Thank you, Regent Turner. We hope to see more of this interaction continue with board members in the future. I'll now share just a bit more about P&A employees. We work in all 20 job families throughout the university system, and our job functions include, excuse me, but are not limited to, conducting research, teaching and advising students, directing programs, advising and collaborating with faculty, staff, and students, managing budgets, overseeing departments, and reaching out to citizens in all of Minnesota's 87 counties. In fall of 2024, P&As taught roughly 32% of courses system-wide. Throughout a 5-year period, an average of 22% of all scholarly publications at the university had at least one P&A author. P&A employees in extension, excuse me, engage with more than 1 million Minnesotans each year. A long-standing narrative that we have tried to dispel is that the university has too many administrators. In 1980, P&A employees constituted 6% of university employees. Now that's at about 25%. As I noted the last time I presented, this is not bloat. This is a response to mission-critical work that increasingly requires specialized employees with very unique skill sets, be they librarians, attorneys, athletics coaches, exhibition curators, marketing professionals who help recruit students and donors, or even nurse providers. Our breakdown, as you might see on the infographic that was shared with you, is 75% professionals and only 25% administrators. These are people like Susie, who support a team that is transforming food shelves across Minnesota to be a place for access to healthy food choices, or Javier, a researcher who manages the state-of-the-art X-ray scattering lab at the characterization facility. We are, simply put, 7,700 mission-critical employees who help the university and the entire state of Minnesota flourish. The P&A Consultative Committee represents the P&A employees at large, rather than the individual campuses, institutes, colleges, schools, or departments at the U. PAC serves as a consulting body to the president and as an executive committee of the P&A Senate. This year, PAC made significant accomplishments. Our Benefits and Compensation Subcommittee reconvened a reclassification working group to aid in the effort of the Workforce Reinvestment Reclassification Working Group. Advocacy will continue into 25-26, and yes, that was a mouthful. This subcommittee also continuously engaged with OHR benefits and compensation representatives throughout the year and provided feedback and direct advocacy to and from P&A constituents. Our communications subcommittee, in addition to preparing the infographic about P&A employees, created newsletters for all employees that highlighted important updates from U-wide leadership, central HR, and featured resources that were important to our employees. Our professional development and enrichment subcommittee hosted 6 online professional development sessions, which were attended by nearly 3,200 employees. These events were hosted and designed completely free of charge. Our policy pop-ups induced large engagement and helped us understand issues that impacted those we represent. Finally, Our outreach subcommittee strategically filled open seats to ensure that all units across the university system had P&A Senate representation. It's important to note that all of the work done by PAC and the P&A Senate is on a volunteer basis. We show up because we are passionate about the university mission. As I close today, I encourage the regents to follow the examples of Regent Turner and President Cunningham and continue to find new ways to hear directly from employees. As a rural Minnesotan, I also encourage this board to visit system campuses and find ways to meet with our extension employees, who are often a first or primary university contact for people around the state. I encourage this entire board to listen to employee concerns and to work together with us equally to solve challenges that impact the university employee experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chair Ramo.
We do have a slide. Good morning, Chair Marion, Regents, President Cunningham, and everyone joining us here and online. On behalf of myself and the Student Senate, I would like to say thank you for including the Student Senate here. And by introduction, my name is Taiwo Aremu, and I've had the honor of serving as the chair of the University of Minnesota Student Senate and the Student Senate Consultative Committee this academic year. And this body represents the over 70,000 students across the system campuses. Today, I will provide a brief update on our major milestones, governance reforms, and advocacy effort over the 2024-2025 academic year, all driven by our commitment to shared governance, inclusion, and institutional improvement. We started the year with an outreach, and that was a retreat, let me say. And I recall that we had Chair Marion attend that retreat. And on behalf of myself and my colleagues, I'd like to say a big thank you. It was great to have you with us. We also went on to launch the Canvas-based orientation program, which is the first of its kind in the Student Senate. In fact, not just the Student Senate, the University Senate. This created a common foundation for new senators across all 5 campuses. To improve engagement, we held a student governance town hall in March of 2025, which directly contributed to over 90% of Senate seats being filled. We also completed a long overdue realignment of committee appointment timelines, moving selection to spring to better synchronize with other governance bodies. One of our proudest accomplishments this year was restoring monthly meetings between the Student Senate leadership and the Office of the President. We do understand that the last 1 year of our president has been a very challenging year, and we sincerely like to say thank you, President, for engaging with us. This effort culminated in a resolution which I authored passed in April, institutionalizing per semester meeting with University President. And we thought this was a crucial step towards ensuring sustained student access to senior leadership. We also prioritize public health and safety through targeted advocacy. While I personally laud the efforts of the police department for their matchless effort in keeping us all safe, I would say, even myself, my vehicle was recently broken into, and the UMPD responded swiftly when I called them. Last year on 24th of October, the Student Senate passed a resolution that supports the university police accountability, an initiative the UMPD already uphold. Besides this, we actively championed a cause for permanent suicide prevention barriers on the Washington Avenue Bridge. This is to note that a permanent enclosure is not just an infrastructure, it is a life-saving commitment to our students' mental health and safety. This year, for the first time, we hosted, the student Senate meetings from the Rochester and Duluth campuses, reinforcing our dedication to system-wide inclusion. We also worked on local campuses issues, advocating for parking validation at Boynton Health, publishing the second edition of the Student Senate Chronicles. The Chronicles was initiated by me when I was the vice chair of the Student Senate last year. I mean, that was the 2023-2024 academic year. And now this serves as an archive, a lasting archive for student leadership and impact across the system campuses. This year has been defined by action, access, and advocacy. But more than that, it's been building a culture, one that's inclusive, responsive, and transparent. I remain immensely grateful to the student leaders I've worked along with, and to university leadership, to the Regents, for your continued partnership. Thank you for your time, and more importantly, for your support of student voice and student success in shaping the University of Minnesota future. Thank you.
Thank you for all of these reports. Let's turn to discussion. Any comments or thoughts people would like to add? And President Cunningham.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I want to add my personal thanks to you four leaders for getting to know me this year. It's been a pleasure to get to meet with you over the year and to see the thoughtfulness and the many hours of your volunteer time and how you're bringing together your constituencies, which have truly informed me and my team, especially as I'm really learning the university. You've been really wonderful partners and teachers for me this past year. I've really come to appreciate the special place that Chair Governance has here at the university, and you, again, have been instrumental in helping me understand what that means here at the University of Minnesota and why it's so special, including the inclusion of all of you here now at the table, and I'm really appreciative of that. So I just really want to thank you for your service and know that we'll continue to work together on the thorny issues, as you mentioned, Jen, of the three legs that we have together across all of your constituencies to support the workforce that I know is supporting the students and to support our students who are our future. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, President Cunningham. Today, we are going to honor our consultative committee chairs for their service to the university. I'm going to invite each of you to receive a certificate of recognition. And then once you've received your certificates, I would ask that you make your round of the horseshoe here so that we can all congratulate you with a handshake, et cetera. All right, so President Cunningham.
I think that was my comment. So please. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to give a speech. No, I can't.
All right. So if this time, if Jennifer Goodnow could come up to the podium, please. Your certificate is here. All right. Yep. And I'm going to hand this to you, but you don't have to read it right now. Okay, I'm going to read it for you. Oh, okay. Your certificate reads as follows. The Regents of the University of Minnesota recognize with great appreciation the exceptional dedication, service, and contributions of Professor Jennifer Goodnow, the 2024-2025 Chair of the Senate Consultative Committee and the Faculty Consultative Committee. As Chair, Professor Goodnow has been a strong advocate for faculty, staff, and students while providing effective leadership in consultation with the Board of Regents, the President, senior leaders, and other partners across the university system. She led governance involvement in several important university matters, including high-profile issues such as core curriculum, institutional speech, and numerous developments at the federal level. She also elevated faculty, staff, and student voices in various leadership searches, including the search for a new provost and on strategic planning. The university has benefited greatly from Professor Goodnow's thoughtful leadership and shared governance and her integrity, commitment, and contributions to the greater good. On behalf of the entire university community, the Regents of the University of Minnesota express their deepest gratitude to Professor Jennifer Goodnow for her outstanding leadership and tremendous service. Do you want to do pictures individually or, yep, or all together? Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm Vice Chair. Thank you. Good to see you. Good. Thank you. Oh, that's great. So much fun. Thank you. Anytime.
Next, we would like to honor Stacy Maurer. If you could come to the podium, please. Ms. Maurer, your certificate reads, "The Regents of the University of Minnesota extend their sincere appreciation to Stacy Maurer, the 2024-2025 Chair of the Civil Service Consultative Committee and Civil Service Senate, for her exceptional dedication, service, and contributions. In her role as chair, Stacy has been a tireless advocate for civil service staff across the university. Over the past year, she led with distinction, advancing governance participation and championing critical updates to the civil service bylaws. She brought the voices and concerns of civil service employees to leadership, fostering open dialogue and building bridges between staff and university administration. Stacy worked diligently to empower her colleagues, encouraging them to engage in shared governance and use their voices to help shape the university community. Through both example and outreach, she underscored the value of staff input and inspired others to become active participants. Notably, she also played a key role in supporting the Communications Subcommittee, contributing to the success of the Civil Service Newsletter, one of the university's most widely read internal publications. The university has benefited greatly from Stacy's steadfast leadership and passionate advocacy for staff governance. On behalf of the entire university community, the Regents of the University of Minnesota express their deepest gratitude to Stacy Maurer for her outstanding service and exemplary leadership. Thank you. At this time, if Kip Brashear would join me at the podium, please. Mr. Brashear, your certificate reads, "The Regents of the University of Minnesota recognize with great appreciation the exceptional dedication, service, and contributions of Kip Brashear, the 2024-2025 Chair of the Academic, Professional, and Administrative Consultative Committee, PACC, and the Professional and Administrative Senate. As chair, Kit served as an exceptional leader for P&A staff. Over the past year, he led governance involvement in numerous important university matters, including continually working to improve communication and transparency of the Peak Initiative, serving as a strong advocate for breadth and equity and representation across the university system, and filling all available seats for P&A employees on the university-wide committees to ensure P&A voices are heard. Under Kit's guidance, P&A leadership has formed strong partnerships with human resource leaders and university administrators to ensure P&A concerns are addressed in decision-making processes. The university has benefited greatly from Kit's tireless advocacy of staff governance. On behalf of the entire university community, the Regents of the University of Minnesota express their deepest gratitude to Kit Brashears for his excellent leadership and service. Thank you. Next, if outgoing Chair Taiwo Ramo would join me at the podium, please. Mr. Ramo, your certificate reads as follows. The Regents of the University of Minnesota extend their sincere appreciation to Taiwo Ramo, the 2024-2025 Chair of the Student Consultative Committee and Student Senate, for his exceptional dedication, service, and contributions. Taiwo's proactive approach to recruiting and retaining student senators this year ensured student representation in university decision-making and that student voices were heard across all campuses. His contributions have significantly strengthened shared governance and led to impactful policy reforms. Under his leadership, the Student Senate advanced critical initiatives on basic needs, access, mental health services, and community building. He successfully advocated for legislation attention to enhance the suicide prevention measures on the Washington Avenue Bridge. Understanding the need for leadership, continuity, and institutional knowledge, he helped develop an innovative Canvas course designed to educate and support student senators. The university has benefited greatly from Taiwo's devoted leadership and advocacy for student governance. On behalf of the entire university community, the Regents of the University of Minnesota express their deepest gratitude to Taiwo Ramo for his excellent leadership and service. Before we hear the reports of the various committees, we're going to take a very short break, a 5-minute break, and then we will come back and resume. Thank you. This time, they call the Board of Regents meeting back to order. We will now move to the next agenda item, which is the committee business. We will begin first with the report of Academic Health Committee. Regent Wheeler, would you like to share your report?
Thank you, Chair Mayeron. Academic Health Committee didn't consider any action items this month. It included the final presentation of the University of Health Sciences Across the State series, in which the committee is learning about how the university is serving Minnesota through academic and clinical training partnerships across the state of Minnesota. This month's segment focused on the contributions happening in rural Minnesota, highlighting the medical school's relationship with Centric Care Regional Campus in St. Cloud. As part of the discussion, committee members considered how the university can reach more Minnesotans and challenges facing the university and the academic health enterprise. We also acknowledge the ever-present obligation of the university to chart how our schools of medicine, nursing, public health, pharmacy, veterinary medicine, and dentistry can continue to fill our responsibility to employ academic medicine to advance public health of the entire state. We're grateful for the involvement of Special Facilitator Lois Quam and the Attorney General, and I can report that the process is underway as a healthy vehicle for engaging stakeholders and for a strategic discussion among University Fairview and Essentia as to how to best serve the many public and patient interests at stake. Thank you, Chair Mayeron. This concludes my report, except that I will say that I will miss you in that chair role greatly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the report of the Audit and Compliance Committee, Regent Kenyanya, would you please share your report with us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report of the Audit and Compliance Committee includes 2 action items this month. Both items were unanimously recommended by the committee for approval by the full board. First, the committee recommended approval of the proposed amendments to the Office of Internal Audit Charter. These revisions bring the charter into alignment with recent updates to the Institute of Internal Audit Standards. The committee also recommended approval of the FY26 Internal Audit Plan as presented on page 71 of the committee's docket materials. I'll note that the formal review and approval of the Internal Audit Plan is a change from previous years to ensure ongoing compliance with the recently amended 2025 Institute of Internal Audit Standards. I'll add that in alignment with board policy, only material revisions to Tier 1 or high priority audits within the approved plan will be returned to the committee for approval. Changes to all other audits will be made at the discretion of the Office of Internal Audit and will be reported to the committee at the next internal audit update. Chair Mayeron, that concludes my summary of the action items. Chair Mayeron, I move approval of those items.
All right. Since all items were approved unanimously, we will act on the Audit and Compliance Committee report as one item unless any regent would like to separate out an item. Well, Regent Kenyanya, you've already made your motion, so I don't have to ask you to make your motion again. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Regent Kenyanya, any other additional committee business?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. In addition to the action items, the committee heard an overview of Title IX compliance and Division I athletics from the Duluth and Twin Cities campuses. As part of this discussion, committee members considered how the university maintains compliance with Title IX regulations given administrative turnover and discussed the challenges and opportunities for our D1 athletic programs. Chief Auditor Galswick also provided the committee with a brief internal audit update reporting that 31% of the outstanding recommendations rated as essential were resolved by the university's departments. This is lower than the goal implementation rate of 40%, but a slight increase from February's 27% rate. Finally, the committee received the required annual report on institutional risk and financial reports as an information item. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much. For the report of the Governance and Policy Committee, Regent Verheulen, could you please share your report with us?
Thank you, Chair Mayeron. The Governance and Policy Committee acted on 2 items this month. First, the committee voted unanimously to recommend adoption of the proposed amendments to Board of Regents policy naming and renamings after converting the item from review to review and action given agreement among the committee members on the proposed amendments and to allow the University of Minnesota Foundation to move their work forward using the new thresholds. The proposed off-cycle amendments to Board of Regents policy namings and renamings include increasing the minimum gift thresholds for endowed chairs and professorships, adding endowed deanships and directorships, and delegating authority to the president to establish higher minimum thresholds for certain endowed positions. The amendments also clarify that namings associated with gifts or sponsorships for East Cliff are approved by the East Cliff Advisory Board. These amendments will help to fund the university's mission and attract additional philanthropic support. The committee also voted unanimously to recommend approval of the consent report, which included minor amendments to Board of Regents policy, gift solicitation, and acceptance. Chair Mayron, that concludes my summary of the action items.
Thank you. Since all items were approved unanimously, we will act on the Governance and Policy Committee report as one item, unless any regent would like to separate out any item. There being no requests, Regent Verheugen, will you move the report on behalf of the committee?
Yes, Chair Mayron, I move approval of these items.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Regent Verheugen, any additional committee business?
Thank you, Chair Mayron. In addition to the action items, the committee discussed changes to digitally accessible federal requirements and the impact on board policy in the board's website. The deadline for compliance across the university is April 24th, 2026. The board office will continue to keep the committee informed of progress as changes are implemented. Finally, the committee received an information item from Executive Director Steves in which he presented the 2025 board policy report. Thank you, Chair Mayron. Also, thank you for serving as vice chair with me on governance and policy these last few years. It's been greatly appreciated. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next, we will receive the reports of the Mission Fulfillment and Finance and Operations Committee. Reports will note that those items the committee approved on behalf of the board. We will start first with Finance and Operations. Regent Hipsch, your report, please.
Thank you, Chair Mayron. The Finance and Operations Committee unanimously approved 3 items on behalf of the board this month. Those items were adoption of amendments to Board of Regents policy conflict resolution process for employees, approval of the resolution related to increasing the maximum amount of the commercial paper facility, and providing further authorization of use for operating purposes, and the consent report, which included amendments to civil service rules, appointments to the Board of Trustees, to the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum Foundation, 3 employment agreements, 3 purchase of goods and services, $5 million and over, the resolution related to the refunding of general obligation debt, and allocation of proceeds from long-term capital financing program. There are no other action items approved this month, and I want to thank you also for your service as chair. You've done a great job. Thank you.
Very much. For Mission Fulfillment, Regent Ruth Johnson, your report, please.
The Mission Fulfillment Committee unanimously approved 2 items on behalf of the board this month. Those items were adoption of amendments to the Board of Regents policy academic misconduct and the consent report, which included approval of new academic programs, approval of changed academic plans, approval of discontinued academic plans, and conferral of tenure on new hires. There were no other action items approved this month. Thank you, Chair Mayron. That concludes my report. And may I also say thank you for your leadership, thank you for your friendship, and I look forward to continuing the conversation beyond this time.
Thank you very much. For the Presidential Performance Review Committee, I will share the report. The Presidential Performance Review Committee, which includes myself and Regents Hipsch and Wheeler, met on June 3 and June 10. At each meeting, the committee adopted a resolution that authorized the closing of the meeting. The committee has concluded its work, and I am happy to share a summary of our conclusions. Our conclusions are as follows. Based on feedback from dozens of individuals who have worked closely with President Cunningham over the past year, the Presidential Performance Review Committee found that she has risen to the tremendous challenges confronting the University of Minnesota. She has led with vision and decisiveness and demonstrated superb steady, and expert navigation of the fluid state and federal landscape, while also bringing a fresh perspective and innovative approach to advance efforts aimed at securing the future of the university's clinical partnerships. She has brought boundless energy to the role, assembled a top-notch team, emerged as a strong advocate for excellence, and demonstrated that she is the right person to lead the university into the future. Overall, President Cunningham's performance has been outstanding. And that concludes my committee report. Next, we will turn to special committees. First, for the Special Committee on Student Affairs, Regent Kenyanya, would you share your report?
Yes, Madam Chair. First, I will thank Mary and Bo because you've been thanked enough. So,
Classic Mike.
yeah, I mean, staying consistent. Madam Chair, the Special Committee on Student Affairs did not consider any action items this month, but we started our fourth and final meeting of the academic year by engaging in a conversation focused on student support services. Rochester Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Life, Heidi Anderson Isaacson, in her second month at the university, and Twin Cities Senior Associate Vice President for Student Affairs, Maggie Towell, provided information on support services that are provided across the system. Highlights included TRIO at the Morris campus, the Disability Resource Center at UMD, orientation programming at the Crookston campus, and student legal services on the Twin Cities campus. For our second item, the special committee walked through the student services fee. Morris Senior Director for Student Engagement and Wellbeing, David Israel Swenson, and Twin Cities Chief of Staff and Director of Operations for Student Affairs, Heather McGinnis, led a discussion on how the fee is allocated on each campus, what the fee does and does not cover, and the integral role that students play in the process of allocating funds. Madam Chair, if you will allow, I'll amend to my report that the committee also recognized, and I'd like it recognized here as well, Maggie Towell's long storied career and service to the university from when she came on campus as an undergraduate student to now 45 years later after serving students tremendously. So I would like her service recognized as well. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Regent Kenyanya. And now for the Special Committee on the University Workforce, Regent Gully, would you please share your report?
Thank you, Chair. The Special Committee on University Workforce did not consider any action items this month. For our first item, the Special Committee engaged in discussion with 3 labor-represented employees: Christina Gallup, Associate Professor and President of the University Education Association for the Duluth campus; Katie LaPlante, Carpenter, General Foreperson and member of the Minnesota State Building and Construction Trades Council on the Twin Cities campus; and Eddie Walker, Associate Professor and President of UEA for the Crookston campus. The panelists described their roles and how they support the university's mission. This item also provided an opportunity for special committee members to hear about the challenges and opportunities they face at the university from the employee perspective. For our second item, Vice Provost for Faculty and Academic Affairs, Beth Lewis, and Senior Director of Total Rewards, Mary Roman Cool, provided an update on the university's efforts to invest in its employees system-wide. They highlighted progress made since our first discussion at the December meeting. Regents considered costs, opportunities, and trade-offs for future investment in our workforce. Finally, the special committee received an information item from Vice President Horstman in which he reported on the status of negotiations and agreements with labor-represented employee groups at the university. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for all of your service to all the regents who may not be in the next meeting. So we really appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it as well. That concludes our committee reports and brings us to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business to come before the board? Seeing none, is there any new business to come before the board? Seeing none, we will now consider a resolution to close the meeting to discuss matters of attorney-client privilege with counsel. Executive Director Steves, will you please read the resolution?
Regents of the University of Minnesota, resolution to conduct non-public meeting of the Board of Regents to discuss attorney-client privileged matters. Whereas, based on advice of the General Counsel, the Board of Regents have balanced the purposes served by the open meeting law and by the attorney-client privilege and determined that there is a need for absolute confidentiality to discuss litigation strategy in particular matters involving the University of Minnesota. Now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with Minnesota statutes 13D.01 subdivision 3 and 13D.05 subdivision 3B, a non-public meeting of the Board of Regents be held on Friday, June 13th, 2025 in the boardroom, 600 McNamara Alumni Center, for the purpose of discussing attorney-client privileged matters, including the following. 1, In re college athlete NIL litigation.
Thank you, Executive Director Steves. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. We will now take a brief recess, and then we will return.